Hey everyone, welcome back to Mining Modern. I'm Corbin Hustler, and this is what happens when you have an 18 land deck. Alright, gotta keep this one. This is pretty good, actually. I'm gonna go ahead and bottom the Spreading Seas because we don't have another land, but... Now we have the Vial, so I can actually just afford to fetch basic island here, which is nice. I guess we're fetching anyways, doesn't matter whether I top or bottom to the card. It's a pretty old school looking hand here, as it were. None of the green cards, rather, which is Kumena's Speaker and Merfolk Branchwalker. But Vial on 1 will help quite a bit. The deck, playing with nearly 8 Silver Ground-Ups, it's just so good. Merfolk Branchwalker, I just can't say enough about that card. It draws you a card some of the time, I guess more or less a third of the time, and it's Silver Ground-Up in that case, and sometimes it's a 3-2 with Scry 1, which is not, I mean, it's better in some situations, worse, I think, in more situations, but not that much. I think it's probably like 80% of the cards Silver Girl Adept is, and Silver Gill Adept is the best card in the deck. So, their opponents on some sort of Kiln Fiend deck, huh? Alright, well, that sounds scary, but this Harbinger of the Tide should be pretty good. Hey, we drew a land. Not quite the land we wanted, as it were, but a land. Opponent's playing Faithless Looting and discarded a Kiln Fiend, so that's also worth noting. But hopefully he'll give us something to dismember here on turn 2, and then we'll start playing the game a little bit more on turn 3. Oh, okay. Claim to fame, alright. You've claimed it. It's back on the field. Claim to fame, sweet. I am going to dismember this. Works out with our curve best, even if it, you know, may technically be better to wait. Works out a little better with the curve to just get rid of it. This is all fine. We basically trade dismember with the claim and lose 4 from this. He might have a spell to protect it, and that's fine too, because then next turn we'll have Vial up. Okay. Look at that, I just can draw all the lands we need anyways. So here's a question, and this is a question you have to pose in this deck that you didn't have to before. Do I fetch a Breeding Pool and deal myself 2 damage so that if I draw a 1-drop, I can play it? If I don't do that, then all the Kumena's Speakers I draw aren't going to be any good, because Vial on 2, you know, obviously won't let me put that into play. On the other hand, the 2 life could matter, and we could just never draw that. So do we think, you know, the being able to play those 4 cards if we draw them is worth 2 life in a situation like this? I think it is, just based on the way our hand looks, and that we probably aren't going to die as long as we can lean on Harbinger. So I'm gonna do it, but this is the sort of thing that is a real downside to this version of the deck, and the mono blue version doesn't ever have to worry about that. You know, the kind of the holy grail here would be finding a mana base for blue-green Merfolk that wasn't painful in any way, but also never had problems with colors. And it might be possible. It very well might be possible if you play, you know, a couple Cavernous Souls and Botanical Sanctums, and you could maybe even play Unclaimed Territory. That feels weird. It doesn't feel like a super powerful card. It's like a worse Cavernous Souls. But especially in this version of the deck, it may not be that bad. I don't know. It's possible. It's worth experimenting with. Like I said, there's so many. We've been claimed again. Okay. Oh, he's going to fame this one. Opponent's going off over there. Okay, well, that's what we have the Harbinger for. Anyways, there's just so many unanswered questions with Merfolk right now, and that's exciting because for a long time, ever since basically the days when I had to convince people to not play Remand in the deck, which is a real thing when Modern started, and obviously I was playing Merfolk, people just wanted to jam Remand into the deck because, oh, it's so good with Aether Vial, and yeah, it is, but it just wasn't good in Merfolk, and fortunately, sort of time has proven me right on that one, and Remand was just not good in Merfolk. That's a really big Kiln Fiend that's going to get bounced. He's not going to make this mistake of pumping before combat again, I'll tell you that much. Although there's not really any way around it. We can do this at any point, but... anyways, the point is there's just a lot going on with Merfolk right now, and it's exciting. And some of these questions will be answered in the next month or two, but then Rivals of Ixalan is probably going to shake it all up again. So we'll see. We'll have to see where things go. But yeah, it is entirely possible that since the deck runs just Dismember as a colored spell before sideboarding, after sideboarding you obviously have a bunch of counter spells, and that's where your blue mana is at a premium. But it's possible between Cavern of Souls and... I would not like to use the ability. Another land, sure. It is possible between Cavern of Souls and Unclaimed Territory, perhaps you could play a version of Merfolk and then Botanical Sanctums that dealt itself no damage still. That's 12 lands you could play, and you're playing 4 Mutavaults, so that takes you up to 16. You're only looking at 5 after that. You can play 5 islands. That gives you 12 green sources for your Kumena Speakers and your Merfolk Branchwalkers that doesn't require you to deal any damage to yourself. The problem then is that your Kumena Speaker will only become a 2/2 by you having other Merfolk, because you're very well. You'd have more. You're gonna have some number of fewer islands because you won't have breeding pools. It's also true that Natural State, which is one of the benefits of playing green, you get that in the sideboard, really helps your affinity matchup, kills Ensnaring Bridge, etc. Becomes very difficult to cast in that version because all your colored mana only works for your Merfolk, and in that build we're talking about, hypothetically, you're only looking at like 4 actual green sources. So I don't think that works, but it is close. It's worth considering. Obviously, I'm going deep on that because this game's fairly straightforward. Our opponent's got kind of a sweet claim to fame brew. Just like we had 1 removal spell, and he still attacked us for like 11 on turn 3. It was pretty good, but Harbinger of the Tide's a very powerful magic card, as it turns out. All right, so what do we want here? Negate, maybe? Our opponent did have some removal. Spreading Seas seems fine. Our deck seems pretty well set up against it, to be honest. I think I can cut the Kira, get a Dispel in, or a Negate in here for Claim to Fame. Yeah, I think in this case Cabal is better because we're just kind of racing. Kira's better in against the grindy Jund decks, Grixis decks, etc. But in this situation, I think Cabal is better because just taxing our opponent's mana is probably good enough based on what he's playing. This deck's kind of sweet. It's a nice little brew. We've got a nice little brew here too. This also is kind of like the old school days of Merfolk where you had core home commanders as a 4 of, and you just sat your Vial on 2 and it never moved. And this is kind of what this version is, because we don't have Master Waves anymore. You never take up to 4. There's not a lot of 3s to take up 4. You basically just park it on 2 and you get 4, 7, 11, 15, 19 creatures off of it. Pretty good. And if you didn't watch the first video or the deck tech, I highly recommend looking at the deck tech where I talked about this. But I don't think Collected Company is good in this deck. I just don't. This hand, though, looks great. This is the kind of hand you're going to have a lot more of when you have 8 1-drops. Well, I guess 12 1-drops if you count the Vials, but 8 creature 1-drops as opposed to... oh, he's playing Delvers, too. All right. Negate feels pretty good then. So it's Claim to Fame Delver. I see. Well, double Silvergill for us. Games with multiple Silvergill feel hard to lose, but our opponent blind flipping this Delver might do it. And a Disrupting Shoal, so our Dismember's going to get countered too. And it never fails. People are very good at blind flipping Delvers against me. Hopefully he'll tap out, so we can at least, if our opponent taps out, then at the very least we can Curse Catcher the Disrupting Shoal when he tries to Disrupting Shoal our Dismember. But our hand's great. Or we can also just... I also made the decision here to misclick the Curse Catcher instead of the Vial, so that was pretty bad. I was talking about something else and I just clicked the wrong one like an idiot. So that's pretty rough. So now we're just not going to play it. He did play around that, by the way. Alright, so I most certainly misclicked myself probably out of the game. I know everyone's yelling at their computers and there's YouTube comments to say how terrible I am, etc., but misclicks happen. It's a part of Magic Online. Just one of those that would never happen in paper and would never happen if I weren't commentating either, but it does happen. You get distracted and you just click the wrong thing. So, with that said, we just upped the difficulty level on this game a little bit. But that's fine. Alright, our opponent is looting very faithlessly. He's costing himself a card every time in the exchange. That is the downside of faithless looting. Awesome card selection, but it does cost you a card every time. So next turn we will probably lead with Dismember. Oh, he discarded Disrupting Shoals. Okay, well, he's clearing the way for our Dismember, I guess. And Dismember's converted mana cost is 3. Even though obviously we're only going to pay 1 mana for it, so it's a little worse for our opponent. Probably doesn't have a ton of 3s to discard. Alright, our opponent's down to 2 cards in hand. We're at 14. That's an okay life total. Ooh, that's a nice draw. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and lead with the Dismember here. Hopefully our opponent will counter it. And then I will play Harbinger. If not, I will play Silvergill. The only problem is that I have to reveal the Harbinger. But that probably is fine. He's going to have to flip this Delver to kill us, I think. Alright, well I made this game infinitely harder than it should have been, but we might still be able to win it. Alright, so our opponent knows what's up with the Harbinger, and that is unfortunate. Kabbalah, okay. So, let's just pray he doesn't flip this one here. Oh my gosh, we did it. Can't believe it. Okay. Uh-oh. That's a scary one, actually. Also blocks pretty well. Another Silvergill. That's a lot of Silvergill. Okay, so I can do a couple things here. I think the first thing we do is attack. He's only got 2 spells in hand, though. Although he can flashback Faithless Looting from his graveyard. Thing in the Ice is the problem here, clearly, but we might still be able to handle it. So I can play Kapala and Vial. I think that's the most mana efficient thing to do. This also makes anything he does worse, right? Because now his ideally he wants to flip his Thing in the Ice by attacking our creatures with spells, and this makes it much harder for him to do so. So in this weird particular instance where our opponent is trying to lightning bolt our creatures to remove counters from Thing in the Ice, Kapala taxing that is better than Kira if you see the goal as, you know, for him not to be actually resolving spells but simply removing counters from Thing in the Ice. Alright, well look, I finally got the Aether Vial in play. It's like I didn't mess up at all. Alright, I still feel like we're doing alright here. 10 life is a pretty decent amount. Our opponent can't attack because he missed his flip again. I'm running hot. It's only the first one blind flip to this game. Alright, so our opponent's going to need something pretty good here. I'm not sure exactly what it could be. Needs Anger of the Gods, I suppose. Anger of the Gods would have been pretty good. I'm not really sure how he beats me just activating both Mutavaults here. Well, okay, certainly not going to beat it now. Gosh, the beautiful part of this is that our opponent needs to interact with this on the stack, because once it lands in play, Kapala is going to make him very dead. Because he's not going, even if he has Lightning Bolt, he spends his turn Lightning Bolting it, and he's just going to die. Alright, no misclicks at all. We ended the game with Aether Vial in play and Merfolk on the battlefield. It was like it was meant to be all along. So there we go. Green didn't really play a role in that match, but it was a good match anyways. Probably one of those favorable matchups for Merfolk. So good games. Thanks for watching, everybody.